In April of 1851, Moses and Eloise Diamond bought the lot that this house sits on. We have to believe that by the end of that year, they had built themselves a 2-room house. I'm in the kitchen that was added on before 1900. Diamond was a dry goods merchant in the 900 block of Main Street in Bastrop. His store was described as spacious and filled with immense stocks of merchandise. But his business was destroyed in the 1862 fire that burned every building of 2 blocks of downtown Maine. Evidently, Diamond couldn't recover from these losses, and 3 years later moved to LaGrange. He sold his house to Caton Earhart for $2,000 in October of 1865. There are many stories written about Caton Earhart. He was a young man in Bastrop when Texas was a republic, and a respected community leader until his death at age 62. My favorite story occurred at his death in 1884. He wrote down what he named his last wishes. He wanted to be taken from this house where he died to Fairview Cemetery after sundown by torchlight. He wrote that he liked the idea that the soul rises the next morning with the rising sun. And he wanted a band to slowly march along beside his coffin and play melancholy music. He also wanted either a 21-gun salute, or even better, he wanted the little Bastrop cannon hauled off and fired. He was probably talking about the little cannon that was fired off during elections, but finally it blew itself up. But anyway, the image of the torchlight funeral weaving through the streets from his house to Fairview is really something to my mind. Another story about this house is a little bit personal for me, because in 1957, Woody and Mildred Clardy bought the house. Woody had a meat market downtown, and Mildred remodeled the interior of the house so she could take care of 3 or 4 elderly live-ins at one time. This house is considered to be the first old folks home in Bastrop. You know, they used to call nursing homes old folks homes. My grandmother, Viola Eskew Smith, was a resident here with Mildred Clardy. I remember as a young man coming to visit grandmother, and I have a photograph of her here in her easy chair in her bedroom. The photograph was taken a few months before she died in 1977. In the photograph, you can see the wall behind grandmother. On it hung a framed picture of a vase of flowers. That framed picture was left behind by the Clardy heirs when we bought the house in 1993. Here is a framed picture that hung in grandmother's bedroom and still hangs in this house today. So those are my stories about this old house. Thank you for listening.